This is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Subscribe, rate, or review Amazon, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your sports podcast. Check us out. And don't forget about the Instagram at That Guy Jig, Jigsaw Jimmy 17 on the YouTube. Week 12 in the NFL. Next week is Thanksgiving. That's when we have the 3 games on the Thursday. We are getting close. We're getting close to that moment, to that opportunity that which we played this game for, the playoffs. Fantasy football playoffs are around the corner, and I'm here to tell you, if you're in that 9-10 spot and you're trying to get to that 8th seed, if you're in that 8 trying to get to that 6, if you're in that 3 trying to get to that 1, what I'm telling you, the time is now. Push the red button. We must have a sense of urgency. At this point in time, there is no surprise. We cannot be surprised that Taysom Hill goes off for 3 touchdowns on a random Sunday. We can't be surprised by these things because this is to be expected. We can't be surprised that Alvin Kamara hasn't touched the paint in a couple weeks. We can't be surprised that Joe Mixon is going crazy after being traded from the Cincinnati Bengals. We cannot be surprised when Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow go nuclear and still lose. This is the season, and that is who they are. In the beginning of the year, I told you the Bengals were going to struggle. They have no defense. It's Texas Tech, air raid, Mike Leach. We are scoring, and we can hope that we outscore you. We hope that we have the ball last. Unfortunately for the Bengals, and too many of these games that they've lost, they have not indeed had the ball last. And here we are. Week 12. And this is when you hop on the roller coaster. This is the roller coaster. This is the opening of the witching week. We have the witching hour every week in fantasy football. Every week we go through the witching hour. We are about to go through the witching weeks. These are the couple of weeks before playoffs that make or break seedings. I'm here to tell you, it ain't over until you got that X next to your name. Once you got that X or that asterisk that says you have been eliminated from playoff contention, once you have that, then you can come and tell me, Jig, I have no hopes. They're dead. And then, and only then, I will look at you and say you are right. But until that day, you're listening for a reason. You're here for a reason. I'm giving you good advice. Like I said, 4-time fantasy football champion here, folks. 4-time. Week 11 was great, though. Week 11 was a great week. For me personally, it's probably the most painful week of fantasy football I've had in years. Lost a lot of games by one hand. 5 points. It's tough. It's very tough. But you know what? I'm tough. Blue steel don't cry. Blue steel don't rust. Blue steel gets better. And that's what we will do. We'll get better because that's what I preach to you every week. We get better. Week 12, big week, though. Week 12 is a big week in the NFL. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you told me, we made some bread. Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Baltimore Ravens, and they did it without even scoring a touchdown. Listen, watch out for Pittsburgh, man. I've been saying it. This is a team full of people who want to prove it. This is a team full of people who have been cut, who have been spit on, who have been labeled as bust. This is a team full of that. And let me tell you something. This is a talented football team who's had an elite defense over the last 4 or 5 years. They've always had a great defense at the steel curtain. Let's just make no bones about it. But the last couple of years, this defense has been elite. They've been lacking what? An offense to back up this defense. Yes, the offense could score more points. Listen, there's not an offense in the world that won't tell you, yeah, we can't score more points. We don't want to score more points. Yeah, they want to score more points in Pittsburgh, and they will. Russell Wilson, shout out to you, man. They shit on you in Denver. They blame that on you, and we all know what the true problem was. It was Nathaniel Hackett and not this, that. It was that roster. Sean Payton points at that so much throughout the season and throughout the interviews about him pointing out just how bad last year was. And I've been on bad football teams. And when a new coach comes in, he can smell the stench of shit. He can smell the stench of losers. Losers stink. You understand me? Losers stink. My man Fran Brown, head coach of Syracuse University, says when he loses, he doesn't shower. His wife doesn't let him in the room because he stinks. Losing stinks. It doesn't smell good. There's no, oh, well, the smell will dissipate in a couple days. No. This shit stinks until I hit the field again. You're only as good as your last game. You're only as good as your last game. But shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Shout out for them to taking a chance on Russell Wilson because they knew it didn't stink. They knew it wasn't him. They knew he wasn't the cause. He was the easiest one to blame. He's a cornball. He's corny as shit. Mr. Unlimited. I understand it. I get it. It's easy to blame a guy like that. I get it. He's doing push-ups on the team flight. He's doing crunches and shit. I'm trying to sleep before the game. He's doing crunches. I understand it. The guy's a conjackaloon. But here we are, balling, 8-2, number one in the division. Talk to me later. Playing the Cleveland Browns on Thursday. This is one of those games where it's going to be like a 36-30, it's a 36 over and under. So they're expecting a low-scoring game. I just said they didn't score any offensive touchdowns, but they probably will get right against the Browns. Because Jameis Winston will turn the ball over and give that Pittsburgh offense a short field and another opportunity to score points. Look for everybody on Pittsburgh, Najee, these guys, George Pickens, Mike Williams, if he can catch the ball, that'd be really great. Pat Freiermuth hasn't been in the paint in a couple weeks. Look for him to get up in there. For Cleveland, they're going to be down. Jameis is going to be throwing the ball. They're going to take away the run game. Nick Chubb is a very, very questionable start this week. He's a questionable start any week because he's coming off of that injury. So, but this week in particular, for sure, against this great defense on a Thursday night, short week. We know Thursday night football is ultimately shitty football. Yes, we've had some good games this year. Cool. But we can't let one good steak let us not forget that this restaurant has overcooked our last 20. So, with that being said, use that game with precaution. I would just get the kickers. Chris Boswell is probably the best kicker in the NFL. If you can somehow find him because you're in one of those 8-man, 6-man leagues, go ahead. But for the people in 12 and 14, I wouldn't even bother looking because if you're in any league worth a damn, he's been vultured. He's already on another team, and they're celebrating him every week. Moving on to Sunday. We got Vikings and Bears divisional game. The Bears are terrible. They're probably going to fire their head coach. They fired their OC. This is a franchise that if they hadn't had the Lovie Smith error in Chicago, we would almost be talking about them along with the Panthers and the Browns as far as just being an incompetent franchise. This is a terrible franchise. They sold Justin Fields for a pack of Newports and a bag of sugar nuts, but here we are. We got Caleb Williams. We got DeAndre Swift. This offense has weapons. You can't tell me the offense doesn't have weapons. This game, the over-under's at 40. But this game has the making of being an over-under's at 50. We just need points. I don't think we're going to see points because both of these defenses are pretty solid. And like I said, this is a divisional game. There's been talks about Caleb Williams getting benched. For you Caleb Williams starters out there, be wary. Because if he shits the bed early, they will pull him. Especially with the success people have had with Bryce Young being pulled. He came back and won some games. Anthony Richardson, same thing, got benched, came back and won some games. Justin Jefferson will hit the paint. I believe that he will hit the paint. I believe. And I'm putting money on it that he's going to hit the paint because he hasn't done it in a couple weeks. And Justin Jefferson's a guy that likes ice cream paint jobs. He's going to get inside that end zone. Aaron Jones has to get inside the end zone. He's been doing, he hasn't had many low-scoring games this year for us in fantasy football. So we're not going to treat him as if he's just a criminal. This is an isolated event. He's had 3 of them. If he hits 4, we must be weary. Because once we hit playoffs, folks, we can't use our hearts. There's no more, listen to your heart. That's gone. We don't listen to our heart anymore. We listen to the numbers. All right, we look at the scales because numbers don't lie, people do. Vikings and Bears. Give me the Vikings in this game. Give me the Steelers in that other game, by the way, even though the Steelers are going on the road. But yeah, Vikings in this game, and give me an anytime touchdown by my guy Justin Jefferson. And all you Cole Kmet fantasy football guys, this is his week. This is a week where he randomly shows up for a little 2-tud game. Just don't say I didn't tell you when you're looking at why you couldn't turn $20 into $400. Don't say Jig didn't give you a play. Lions and Colts, this is a game that's going to be high scoring. Over-unders are at 49, 50, which means the Lions are probably going to score 49 or 50 themselves. This game can get high scoring. If Anthony Richardson can be somewhat competent like he was last week, the Colts could be all right, but I doubt it. 2 weeks in a row is asking a lot from that guy. I mean, that's almost like asking him to play 2 plays in a row. He might take himself out. He might sub himself out because he's tired. But what I'm telling you is he looked all right last week. That offense looked all right. This game has potential to be high scoring. The Lions defense is not as good as one might think. It's a solid defense. It's a defense you would love to have on your team. Like, you wouldn't be like, nah, I don't want that Dolphins defense. I mean, that Lions defense. But as far as fantasy football, as far as I'm afraid to play players against the Lions, I am not. I'm more fearful of Anthony Richardson being the quarterback of the team that are the players that I'm picking versus the players that I'm picking versus the Lions. It's more likely going to be on Anthony Richardson than it is going to be on the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are playing extremely good offensively, so we're not even worried about who to pick on their offense. Pick a player and just be all right. Amon-Ra St. Brown has scored a touchdown in 7 straight games, so if you want him for an anytime touchdown, fuck it. He's probably going to get one on the 8th straight game. I mean, at this point. Dolphins and Patriots. This game right here, 45-point over and under. It could be a shootout because of Drake May. Drake May is doing some things up there in New England. If they can get him some weapons, they're going to be all right. And I think that's why Jared Mayo is safe. I think that's why Gerard Mayo is safe, Jared. I think that's why Gerard Mayo is safe because they see the potential in the defense. The defense is going to be solid. You see the potential in your offense. Hey, this guy has a 3-8 record with a team that is pretty bad. I mean, it's pretty bad. Is it a transitioning period? Shout out to Gerard Mayo and that staff for handling and understanding the assignment. They got to get some weapons for Drake May. They got their quarterback. The Dolphins, too, is back. Tyreek Hill is back relevant. Jalen Waddle hasn't seen the paint in a very long time. Jalen Waddle hasn't been relevant in a very long time. Jalen Waddle is a good wide receiver, though. So eventually, we do believe he will break out. We have to. Jonnu Smith's breaking out. Odell Beckham's playing football again. Jalen Waddle, we need you now. And I think this week he can touch paint. Look, watch out for a Jalen Waddle anytime touchdown. I like Tyreek Hill, Devin Achane, these guys. Jonnu Smith's going to have a good fantasy football week. And then for the Patriots, everybody on their offense should be solid. This is one of those games that could end up being a very high-scoring game. Bucks and the Giants, listen. Mike Evans, you better be playing, bud. You better be playing. Bucky Irving, we need you in the paint. Bucky Irving, we need you in the paint. This is going to be one of those games that might be a little closer than people think because of the Giants' defense is solid. It is formidable. If Tommy DeVito can go out there and be a average NFL quarterback, if he can just move the ball, keep Baker and them on the sideline, this game could end up being close. I mean, they're only 6-point favorites for a reason. The Giants' defense is formidable. So we'll see what's going on. Brian Dable is somewhat on a hot seat. I don't know. I don't know about that personally. I think Brian Dable has at least 2 more seasons there because of the Daniel Jones experiment was a shit show. They brought him in to try to make Daniel Jones work. They didn't bring him in and then draft Daniel Jones, so it's not really his quarterback. That's why I say he probably has a couple more years before that leash starts to choke. And he's walking around looking like he went to My Chemical Romance. Cowboys and Commanders. This game had potential to begin the season, but now it is a shit show. Terry McLaurin, anytime touchdown. Brian Robinson. Those are my 2 guys for the Commanders. But everybody for the Commanders offensively, I am playing. Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler is a good sub-in. The Cowboys are bad. They're a bad franchise. They're in disarray. They're openly talking about who should replace their next head coach. I don't think there might be any more tougher positions than being in a head coach position and having people publicly say you should be fired and you have to go to work every single day and coach, knowing that you're probably going to get fired at the end of the year. It's crazy, but it's the job he chose. The Cowboys have been nothing but underwhelming this year. I mean, absolute terrible. I mean, when I think about what the Dallas Cowboys hype started as and what they're finishing as, I mean, I always thought the Cowboys would finish 500. I thought that was their medium. This is terrible. This is terrible. Chiefs and Panthers. Chiefs got to get a bounce-back game. Everybody who has played against the Panthers defense has had a great game. Travis Kelce is about to go nuclear. He's going to go to the basement. He's going to put his PIN code in. He's going to walk in. He's going to push the red fucking button because everybody and their moms have gotten right against the Panthers defense, and I do not see that changing for Mr. Travis Kelce. Multiple touchdown game for Travis Kelce. Get his season back on par. Get his stats right so he hits those incentives. Titans and Texans. Texans players are up. Every Texans player. Titans players, it's going to be a tough game. That Texans defense is good. The Texan defense is good, especially when they're playing with a good C.J. Stroud. When C.J. Stroud's on his shit and he's not in that sophomore slump humbug, that is a good team. That is a good team. Texans are going to win that game easily. Easily. Not even going to be close. And here we go. Broncos and Raiders. Old rivalry right here, folks. Old rivalry. This is the shit bowl, unfortunately, because the Raiders suck and the Broncos probably aren't going to the playoffs. They probably don't need to go to the playoffs. But they are showing their fans that they have something there in Denver. There's something to be happy, to be hopeful. No longer will you just have the Avalanche and the Nuggets. You will now have the Broncos, hopefully, if they can give Nick some help, if they can, add some weaponry. But give me the Broncos in this game. Give me the Broncos big. Raiders have been playing bad. Raiders have been playing very bad. They're a bad franchise. They're looking to move up in the draft and work on their future, and I don't blame them. You got to look at your future when your present's that bad. 49ers and Packers. Now the afternoon night slate, that's when things get juicy. That's when things get really good. We got the 49ers and the Packers, and this is going to be a good game. A good high-scoring 24-24 game, mid to high 20s is my point. Teams are going to score some points. You like the 49ers, you like the Packers. Especially if Brock Purdy's going to be healthy, if the 49ers can get some of their weaponry back. This is a team that can make a late playoff push. Envision yourself as the 49ers if you're trying to make a playoff push in fantasy football. Envision yourself as a San Francisco 49ers. You're 5-5, and you just got to win. Every game is the playoffs. Like I said earlier, if you're in that 10 trying to get to that 8, if you're in that 8 trying to get to that 6, if you're just trying to get in, or if you're that 3 trying to get to that 1, that's exactly how it went. You should. You really should. Every game's the playoffs right now. Right now, starting this week, every game is the playoffs. Jordan Love's a quarterback. I like all the receivers. I like Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer Smith. His name is my name too. I think the Packers have something good. This is a home game for them. I like the Packers in this game, but I would not be surprised if the 49ers come out with that shit because they have athletes too, America. Cardinals and Seahawks. This should be an explosive game. This should be a get-right game for DK Metcalf. This should be a get-right game for Kenneth Walker. This should be a get-right game for most of the Seahawks receiving corps. The Cardinals are not a very good football team. The Cardinals are pretty much at that point of, do we move on from Kyler or do we keep him? I know they're 6-4. I get it. They're leading the division. But trust me, this 6-4 is not real. This is the part of the time where the Cardinals season usually falls apart. At this point in the season, every year. This is about it. So give me the Seahawks. They're at home. Give me DK. Give me Kenneth Walker. Marvin Harrison Jr. should have a game. I like Kyler Murray to have a good, solid game. The Seahawks defense is solid. It's a defense you want to have per usual. But overall, I think in that game, the Seahawks should win that game. Rams and Eagles. Rams and Eagles, give me the Rams in this game because the Rams have the weaponry. And Matthew Stafford is balling. I'm telling you, Matthew Stafford's on a mission. This is like one of those random years where you see Matthew Stafford and he's about to be in the playoffs. He's gotten hungry at the right time. Kyron Williams, one of the best backs in the game. Keeping that offense churning. You got Cooper Kupp and Puka, so you know what you're going to get right there. They have the weaponry. Their defense is solid. The defense can get a stop or two. This is a team that can do some things. This is a team that can do some things right there. The Eagles, A.J. Brown, Saquon, Devontae Smith. These are the usual suspects. Jalen, these are the usual suspects. You're playing pretty much everybody in this game because this has potential to be the highest scoring game this week. These two teams get together on the field. There's going to be some points. The Eagles' defense is good, but it's not great. They give up points. This could be a good game for all of us. Ravens and Chargers. The battle of the Harbaugh. This is going to be a good game. I'm taking the Ravens especially after they just lost to the Steelers. The Ravens are good on the bounce back. Look for the Ravens to go out there to LA and do some damage. That's going to be a good game. The Harbaugh brothers getting together is always a good game, but this one's going to be a little spicy, just because Lamar Jackson's on a mission, and they just lost last week, like I just said, so they have to bounce back. They have to get right. Chargers coming off that game against the Bengals where they won, so they're feeling good against that division. So it's going to be an interesting game. Overall, give me the Ravens in that game. Rapid fire. Here we get it. Steelers, Vikings, Lions, Dolphins, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Chiefs, Texans, Broncos, 49ers. Give me the Seahawks, and give me the Rams, and give me the Ravens. And let me get a subscribe. Hit that button. And then tell a friend to tell a friend so we can all be friends. And once again, this is That Guy Jig Sports Podcast. I am him, JIG. Thanks for listening. Peace.